Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Professional Oral Communication Presentations. I'm Professor Mike, as usual, and today I'd like to talk to you a bit about media and structure of your presentation. So why don't we just get right into the lesson? I'm just going to go right over to a PowerPoint here. Okay, then, so if you remember last week, we talked about body language. I showed you a video by David Phillips who explained, all kinds of things that, you should keep in mind when you're doing your presentation. Okay, so for example, using pauses, okay, sitting down, okay, and of course that Duquesne smile. It's always important to smile at your audience. I also showed you a short video about attire, okay? This is clothing, okay? What you need to wear, okay? So remember, it's a good idea to wear a cardigan or light jacket sometimes, even if it's a formal presentation, if you're wearing a jacket that you can take off in case it gets too hot. And for homework, I asked you, we went through some problems that were listed in the book. And these are problems that might occur in your presentation and probably will occur at some point. Okay. And I want to say thank you to everybody who sent me solutions to the problems. Really amazing. There were so many ideas that you guys had. The best thing really that you need to do is actually prevent the problem from even happening, okay? So put a sign on the door that says there's a presentation in progress. Please wait until after you hear the applause, okay? Please turn off all cell phones or quieten all the cell phones. Okay, so you need to explain like some rules and things like that, just so that these problems do not occur at all. Okay, now the first slide I have here, when you introduce your topic, okay, so there are several ways, of course, we know how to do it. Remember, we have the rhetoric question, the rečnická, okay, this sort of question that doesn't need any kind of an answer. It's more of a question that the audience will begin to think about, just start thinking about the topic, okay, or the consequences, okay. You can start with like a story, okay, even a motivation when you were a child that led you to, to either into that field or to study that problem further. Some anecdote, even a joke, humor is always, always important in a presentation. Okay, but today's lesson is going to focus, I guess, mostly on structure and on the media, okay? So before you do anything, you need to provide kind of an outline. It's a guide, okay? A sprievodca, okay? For example, so in today's presentation, I will give you a brief history of maple syrup, okay? Yavarový syrup, okay, le sirop d'érable, and how production evolved throughout the ages. Next, I will describe to you the main antioxidants found in maple syrup and their importance in human health. And finally, I will conclude my presentation on the benefits of maple syrup with a comparison between those who ingested maple syrup for 1 year and those who did not. Okay, so, you can see here, I'm giving you a history of what it is, okay, the main antioxidants and their connection to human health. And then here, I'm basically describing what my methodology was, okay, and then even the results. I have a comparison, okay. So this basically tells your audience what you're going to speak about, okay? You don't have to do it exactly like this, okay? I mean, presentations are always evolving. This is a classic. This is the very classic style of having a presentation and, telling the audience what you're going to speak about. Okay, so you also need to ask the audience to leave any questions until the end of the presentation. All right, so for example, I also kindly ask you to refrain. Okay, refrain just means stop yourself from asking any questions during the presentation, as there will be time for this afterwards. Now, think about this. I like to do this. Most presenters like to do this as well, okay? We don't like having questions during the presentation. The reason why is that if somebody asks you a question, it's sometimes hard to come back to the flow of your presentation, okay? It's a disruption, a distraction. So, and sometimes the question is just not even relevant to your presentation. So it's better to do the whole presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, take time for those questions and answers. All right, so as I said, before, right? I mean, in this part here, in this slide during structure, okay? So we have the guide, all right? Basically on page 75 in the book, if I can find it, I'm just going to have a quick look here. Where is it here? Okay. So look at that. I've got the book right in front of me. Okay. Yeah, at the bottom here, it says you're going to tell the audience what you're going to say. Okay. Then you say it. That's your actual main body, the main part of your presentation. And then when you come to the conclusion part, okay, you're basically just, you're telling them what you said. It's a recapitalization, okay? To recapitulate, a recapitulation. I'm sorry, I can't speak today. I need to have some more coffee. And then we have some questions and some answers, okay? So you need to kind of clarify what you said. You've made a presentation. Maybe not all of it was 100% understood by the audience, okay? So you want to just basically tell them, what you want to do next. The door is always open. There are new doors opening up all the time, okay? You may not even know the answer to all the questions, okay? We will get to that in another lecture, probably in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. I have another lecture about how to answer questions effectively. Okay, now the media. Okay, how are you going to present your research? Okay, well, I'm just going to go back to the selfie here. Okay, so that, obviously we're online this semester, but I've offered to a lot of people, if you want to do face-to-face presentation, that's okay. We're not breaking any rules this year or anything like that, because we can have 6 people, I'm sorry, let me put it up there. We can have 6 people in our lesson, okay, or in our little presentation time, okay, so, or mini presentation conference, okay, so that would be me, 5 students. You would make your 10-minute or 15-minute presentation. There are enough of us to ask some questions and you can answer it. And we're not breaking any rules as far as COVID-19 goes, because we are allowed to have a maximum of 6 people in the room, okay? So I'm going to show you first, okay, how to, how to use the media when you make an effective presentation face-to-face. And then I want to give you some examples of some video presentations that the students made last year, okay? You don't have to panic. I mean, it's not that easy making a video presentation, of course. But there are ways that you can get around it without having to actually show your face too often, okay? So I'll get to that in a moment. So let me get back here. I'm going to go show you further in the PowerPoint presentation some media techniques that you can use. Hang on a second here. All right then. So what are we going to do? How do we do it? Okay. So again, if you're face to face, you can use PowerPoint, of course. Okay. You can use Prezi. I don't know if you know anything about that. Okay. I've got here, take a moment to discuss some of the advantages and disadvantages, but think about it. For example, PowerPoint is very common. Like I've seen like thousands of PowerPoint presentations. PowerPoint presentations can be very, very boring, okay? I'm going to show you a video in a few minutes by David Phillips, the same guy from last week, and he's got another really amazing presentation called Death by PowerPoint, okay? And he'll show you how to properly use a PowerPoint and present effectively. And now with Prezi, okay, not everybody knows what a Prezi is. Prezi is actually very, very interesting, okay? But some people feel seasick, okay? Like, I mean, if you make a presentation where it goes in and goes out, okay, it's always coming and going, okay? So you can see my hand. Actually, I'm feeling sick looking at my fingers right now. So that's what a Prezi presentation does. You feel dizzy, okay? You know, tochi vam hlava. You feel, en français, c'est entourdi, okay? A Prezi can be too much motion, okay? I'll show you that in a moment then, okay? But before I go onto the Prezi, I want to go to this video, okay, by David Phillips, and he's going to talk to you about a lot of the disadvantages of PowerPoint, but also some of the things that you can do if you're making a PowerPoint presentation to deliver it effectively. There are some certain rules and things that you need to remember. Hang on a second, I'll go right to that video here.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. There is a question which has puzzled me for quite a while. And that is, why do our PowerPoints look the way they look? Or rather, how on earth can we accept that they look the way they look? How can you do that? And do you know what's even more intellectually challenging for me to understand? Is how can a person sit over here in this meeting room with 10 others, observing this dismally bad PowerPoint filled with charts, graphical elements, page numbers, fading away 5-7 minutes, thinking of other things. You know the feeling, the boredom, the waste of time. This person, after 40 minutes, he or she will stand up, a bit dazed, trotting off to his own office, coming into his own computer, flipping it up, going like, oh my God, I've got a presentation tomorrow, and I do have a PowerPoint to build. Now, what is the chance that this person will build an equally bad PowerPoint as the one that he or she was by herself tortured by in the other conference room? Is that a big chance? Yeah. Now, what is that? Why do we do that? Is that vengeance? Is that where you go like, you did that to me, I'm going to do it to you, you got it coming, bro? Is that the case? I don't think so. I don't think it has got to do with vengeance. I don't think it has got to do with intelligence. I think it's got to do with something else. Now, my passion in life is the brain. And an even bigger passion than that is presentation skills. And I love combining these two. And about 4 years ago, I got so upset. I blew my top. Because the way that we do neural executions all over our boardrooms today is just, it's not fair to our intelligence as being Homo sapiens. So I thought, there's got to be something that we can do about this. So I searched the world. I looked for seminars. I looked for training programs. I looked for books that could solve this question for me. But there was none to be found. So I thought, well, I'll just do as Franz Kafka said, if it isn't written, write it yourself. And 4 years later, I have the great honor to stand here in front of you. What am I talking about? What are the PowerPoints I'm referring to? Well, they can look like this. Now, this is one of the top 3 universities in the world advising their students and their teachers on how to build great PowerPoints. I received this from a customer. And you've got to be semi-blind in order to even have something like this in the company. I love this one. This one was awarded the prize of being the worst PowerPoint delivered by a public CEO in 2010. It's a nice prize to pick up, isn't it? Oh yes, thank you. Well done, mate. And then you're like, this is bad. Can it get worse? Yes, it can. Now, this is the UN in Afghanistan, the US military, describing the situation in the area. And, well, there are no comments on that. But then we go this one. My God, David Phillips, this has got to be the thing. This has got limited amounts of text. It's got a supporting image. It's got a clear headline. This is the truth. Well, the thing is, if you recognize yourself in any of these, which I think you do, nodding away, I want to make you aware of the following. That if you've delivered a presentation with something like that behind you, 90% of what you said was gone within 30 seconds. And then you go, no way, Jose. That is way, I know it's bad, but it can't be that bad, can it now, really? Well, just let me give you an example of really how bad your working memory is, and mine, for that case. I want you to imagine this situation. You're at the train station, and you're waiting for the train. You can see it coming in the horizon. You're fiddling away, you finally find where you put your ticket, and you take it up and you go, car 5, C42, got it. Have you? You have absolutely no idea where you're going to sit, do you? So you're like, is this only me, or, well, I'll check 542, and you put it down again. Have you got it? No, you haven't got it. You'll do this on an average of 6 times before you sit down. I've seen people in the train go, 542, 542, yes, this is my seat. Check. Now, the bad news in this situation is this. You do not have a separate working memory for PowerPoint and a separate working memory for train tickets. It's the same dismally bad working memory for both activities. So I might be harsh when I say this, but there is one man on this earth who knows more about the brain than anybody else, one of the most leading neurologists called John Medina, and he puts it like this. And it's with his words that I welcome you to How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint. Now, my objective for this evening, for this 18 minutes, is to give you 5 design principles that will cognitively and psychologically optimize your PowerPoint slides. And if you haven't used them before, they will make a tremendous difference to every PowerPoint you will be delivering from this day and on. So let's start. The first one of these 5 is one message. I received this from a customer and I said, hey, we've got a lot of issues in here, but let's start with the first one. You've got 2 messages. Let's move one of them out of the way and just bring one message per slide. So why should we only have one message per slide? Well, I'll give you this beautiful example. You're at this nice party, you've got the music going, boom, boom. You've got this person you're chatting away to, you're having a good time. Chat, 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 chat. Then you hear your name spoken somewhere. Your entire attention is now diverted in that direction. And then with this person, you're just nodding away, hoping that you're nodding in the right instances, yeah? Yes, yes, yes. After about a minute, this one stops talking about you, so you divert your attention straight again. Now, that person will then say, well, don't you agree? Well, don't we just love that situation? We have got no clue what they've been talking about. The same thing goes for PowerPoint. If you've got more than one message, the chance is big that they will be focusing on this one and not that one. or that one and this, not this one. Just make it simple for human beings. Have one message per slide. We are extremely limited to understanding more. Let's move on. Go to working memory. I've already given you this bad vibe that your working memory is bad, and I'm afraid I'm not coming with better news. I'm coming with worse news. And it goes like this. This equation has the basis of John Sweller and Meyer. And they come to the conclusion that there is something in our brain called the redundancy effect, and it works like this. If you have text sentences on your PowerPoint, and you persist with the annoying idea of speaking at the same time, what will be remembered by the audience is 0, or very close to 0. Now, why is that? How does that come about? Well, it can't look like this. It's just not practical. You can't stand and have this and talk at the same time. So what are you supposed to do? Well, use PowerPoint for what it's supposed to be used for. Pick it like this. Pull down your text into the documentation field and use the area up there for the presentation material. Short, sweet bits of text and an image. That is what enhances your image. That is what enhances your message. So use PowerPoint as it's supposed to be used. Come to the third of these 5 principles, and that's size. Before I go into that, I want to make you aware of something, and that is the following. Every time you open your eyes for the rest of your life, you will focus on 4 things. Moving objects, signaling colors like red, orange, and yellow, contrast-rich objects, and big objects for the rest of your life. Give you a practical example of that. I want you to imagine yourself being home with a friend, a really good friend. Now the television is on, but the sound is off. You're having a great conversation, but do you find it easy to not look at the television? No. Why not? Because it's got moving objects, it's got signaling colors, it's high in contrast, and they're usually very big these times. So why not use this to our benefit? If you look at this, where is your attention drawn to? Without you even having a chance of controlling it. It's going to the big 3 all the time. Well, have a look at the practical situation. Have a look at this. Where is your eyes drawn to? Well, I can see that they're drawn to constantly to the headline. Now, how often is the headline the most important part in a PowerPoint? It's very rare. Even so, every PowerPoint template is built like this, where the headline is the biggest object and the content is the smallest, going absolute opposite to our biological reactions. So what does this look like if we just show you an example? Well, now I'll reduce the title and it looks like this. Do you see how your eyes now fall down into the content? Now they're sucked into the headline, and now they're fallen down into the content. So I can control exactly where you are. But why do people build PowerPoints where people will be spending 70% of the time on the headline when it's not the most important part? So what I want you to take with you from this is the most important part of your PowerPoint should also be the biggest, nothing else. Moving on to number 4, contrast. Contrast controls your focus. So what does that look like? For instance, if I show you a list like this, your eyes are all over the place because you don't really know what to focus on. So I'll use a built-in functionality into PowerPoint which goes like this. I'll show you the first subject. I'll take it away with contrast and I'll show you the second one. And I'll do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You're now following exactly the white spot. If I do this, dun, I can see your eyes just wobbling around, and you're a bit like, a kitten going after a little laser pointer on the wall, going like, where is it? I've got it. Because you're following where the white spot is and not the rest. Now this is a beautiful example. Please do use this. Use it because you can show amazing big tables like this if you use the effect of contrast, the principle of contrast. Look what this looks like. Your eyes are all over the place. You don't know what to focus on. But I just apply the principle of contrast and it looks like that. And suddenly you know exactly what to focus on. Here, they're all over the place, and here, they're exactly where I want them. Now there's a big, major drawback with PowerPoints, and that is that the majority of companies on this earth today, they persist in having white backgrounds in PowerPoint. Look at that. Oh, it's bright, it's shiny. Could you tell me who has the highest contrast, me or the screen? Well, the screen. Who's usually the biggest, me or the screen? Well, the screen. So the only option I have is dress myself up in signaling colours and jump around on stage in order to balance that problem out. Now that is obviously not a good corporate strategy in the long term, would it be? I think the long-term strategy is to just switch it around. PowerPoint is not supposed to have white backgrounds. If I do this, your eyes relax. You focus on me. I'm the biggest object. I'm the most contrast-rich object. I got your focus. Why is that important? It's important because I always have been, and I always will be the presentation. That is my visual aid. Moving into the last principle, that is objects. Now this is one of the most severe principles, and it goes like this. How many objects do I have here? If you count them quickly, you'll see that I've got 16. Do you see this little beauty at the end as well, which goes to page 12 of 95? What is that? Why do we do that? That only creates anxiety, if anything. You're like, oh my God, I can't take 83 more of those. But it can also create hope. Because imagine when it's 90 out of 95. Oh, I can see the light. I can see the end of the tunnel. Kidding aside, don't do that. Now, there are so many ideas out there on how many objects you're supposed to have in PowerPoint. And once and for all, I just want to put my foot down and state to you that this is the perfect amount. And in order to do that, I want you to feel it yourself. How many objects are you supposed to have? And we're going to do that by showing you a couple of balls. I'll throw up the balls. I want you to nod to me when you've counted them. Simple instruction. You with me? Cool. Here we go. Boom. All right. Takes you about 2 seconds. Good. Well done. And the next set of balls, count them and nod to me when you've counted them. Here we go. Excellent, yeah. It took you about 1.2 seconds if you're normal, which about 90% of you seem to be. We'll have the third set of balls, the last one. Look at this, nod to me when you've counted them. Oh, what was that? I just pressed the button and you nodded simultaneously. That will, if you are normal, take you 0.2 seconds. 2/10 of a second. This will take you 1.2, this will take you 2/10 of a second. And for any one of you who you're good at maths, you'll find out that that number is approximately 500% difference. How is that even remotely possible? There are only 2 objects in difference. Well, might I suggest the following. This one you have to count, and this one you see. Could that be correct? So what you've just experienced is the following. That the cognitive process of counting takes 500% longer time, requires 500% more energy resources to execute than just seeing. So, what I want you to keep in mind at all times, what I want you to keep in your head is this, which is the Swedish number for this. The magical number is 6. It's not 5, it's not 7, it's 6. And I want you to make you aware of this. When you go into a presentation in the future and you've built this amazing PowerPoint, if you've got more than 7 objects or 7 or more objects, you have to be aware that all the people in there, they have to use 500% more energy and cognitive resources to understand what's in your PowerPoint. Now, how do you think their energy-saving brain by nature behaves? Will it go like, ooh, I'll easily invest 500% more cognitive resources to understand this weird slide, or I won't. I won't. And you've just incurred death by PowerPoint. Now, what does this look like in real life? Well, have a look at this. 16 objects. Can we agree that that's too many? Yes, we can. So what does it look like if we reduce it? Look at this. We go from this to this. And this is where your brain goes, and this is where your brain goes, And I assume that in the future, when you deliver PowerPoints, to your colleagues, to your fellow people, you want them to go, ah, when you show them your slides. You don't want them to go, Now there is a, have you seen this movie, The Rain Man by Dustin Hoffman? You've seen that? It's beauty, isn't it? He comes into this cafeteria and somebody drops toothpicks and he goes like, boom, 247. It's amazing, isn't it? His perceptive limit is here. Your perceptive limit is here. Now, what amazes me is that whichever country I go to, whichever company I see, it seems like they build PowerPoints in the hope that all their fellow colleagues are autistic or savants, which obviously is not the case. So, but then you go like this, but David, my God, this means that I have to have more slides. Yes, that is entirely correct. You have understood me clearly. I want to make one thing clear here, and that is that the amount of slides in your PowerPoint has never been the problem. It is the amount of objects per slide which has been the problem. The stupid idea that corporate organizations all over the world have come up with limitations going like, ooh, we've got this clever idea. You can't use 40 slides, you can only use 4. So what do people do? Well, they take the content of the rest 36 and they jam it in the first 4. My God, is that counterproductive or what? And we call ourselves intelligent? No. All right, so compared. I started off with 95 of those. We ended up with 135 of these. And yes, it gave an immediate result to the application that we were working for. So, to summarize this, let's have some fun and do a cross-examination, because obviously I have to prove my point. Do you remember more than 90% of what I said? I'm not going to be that harsh. Let's do a crossword instead. It's going to go like this. Words are going to come up. I'm going to ask you to scream them out as loud as you can as we go along. How many messages are you supposed to have per slide? 1. Very good. I think you were looking for a different word there. What can we use to steer focus? Yes, and another one. Well done. What should we avoid using if speaking at the same time? Beautiful. And what should we strive? What kind of background should we have? We should have dark. And finally, now you can say it. How many objects per slide? 6. That is magnificent. Thank you very much.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video. David Phillips is amazing. So basically, you're going to remember 90% of your of the presentation that you're watching if the presenter actually follows those 6 rules that he said at the end. Okay. So, for example, how many messages should be on each slide? So just 1. Okay, 1 message is enough. The other thing he talked about was, the background, okay? So remember, contrast is important. You don't want a white background in a white slide, basically, okay? You want a dark background and light letters, okay? He said in the presentation that he has always been, and always will be the presentation, okay? The PowerPoint itself is the visual aid. He moved on. The third thing, I'm just looking at my notes here, but I can't even read. Oh, yes, okay, is size, okay? So remember, the size of the letters, the headings, that's where you're going to focus on things. So try to remember to use in the PowerPoint feature, it actually comes with the program, that you can highlight each word as you say it, okay? So If when you say the word, it's highlighted, you move on to the next one, that's highlighted, but the previous word, it's faded. You can still see it, but your eyes are focused only on that word, okay? What else? Yeah, sentences, okay. This is a big thing. I have seen so many PowerPoint presentations where there is so much text, a lot of text. I don't go to a presentation to read and then I have to sit there and listen to the presenter basically read to me what's on, like on the screen. I can do that, but I don't want to do that, okay? So if you know how to use the feature where at the bottom of the screen, you have the notes, and they're not going to be displayed, from the projector onto the screen, okay? But you'll see the notes on the monitor, and and the visuals, your pictures, okay, or your tables or graphs or images, anything will be displayed, behind you on the screen, okay? So text, minimize it, okay? Like really minimize it, okay? You are the presentation. People have come to see you. They didn't come to read. I mean, they can go and download all that kind of stuff, on the internet, go to the library or whatever. Okay, what else did he have here? I have dark, okay. Dark, why do I have that? Okay, if I remember from the video, yeah, have that dark background, okay? And finally, the amount of objects should be 6 objects on 6 objects on each per slide, okay? So remember, like the less that you have, okay, your brain feels more relieved, okay? If you have too many things on the screen, you just have no idea what's going on and so forth, okay? All right, so right now I'm just going to show you a presentation. Well, it's from YouTube. Everything you can get on YouTube, and this is about Prezi. You can also find other YouTube videos how to make a Prezi presentation if it's interesting to you. Okay, I'm going to show it to you right now, just in case you've never seen it. Hang on a second here. Okay, now this presentation, this one actually has no sound, okay? Oh, it does. We have a song.
On the wharves and we are walking barefoot and free. In your eyes, I see blue skies reflection, and everything is blue and blurry. Kissed by sun, loved by wind, we celebrate this lovely place. No sorries, no worries, let it always be a sunny day. Whoa, just for you and me. Whoa, a sunny day.
Okay, so I'm just going to turn down the music there. I mean, yeah, it's happy, it's sunny day and everything like that. But you kind of get the idea of what a Prezi presentation looks like. It's actually built all on one screen, okay? And you'll have these either circles or like modules, and you can zoom in and you can zoom out, okay? So this is a Prezi presentation, for business and so on. But you can use it for anything, even in academics. The only thing about doing a Prezi presentation is that you actually have to pay some money. Like, it's like any kind of application that you get off the internet. You have a free one, like a free version, but you don't get all the, all the special effects. Like there are limitations, of course. And there, if I remember, it's been a long time since I've gone or since I've looked at the Prezi website. But if you are a student, though, I don't think you really need to pay anything, and they will give you access to some more of the features. That could have changed, though. Okay, so I don't want to give you any wrong information. Okay. But yeah, Prezi is interesting. It's different than going. A typical PowerPoint. The only thing is you just have to be careful about going too quickly. Okay, because if you're moving forward and backwards, you get this kind of motion sickness. It can make you a little bit dizzy. All right, let's move on. So I also said that I'd like to show you some examples of making like a video presentation. I've got 3 examples here that I think they're pretty good, and I've got I think I have the permission of the students, but anyways, there's no names or anything like that, and I just want you to have a quick look. I'll show you just briefly how some people made their presentations, okay? And if you want, of course, you can definitely, follow or hopefully it'll give you some inspiration in your own presentation.
The Chinese authorities identified many similar cases of pneumonia in the city of Wuhan in China. And despite complete city lockdown, the virus managed to spread to other countries and afterwards globally, with cases doubling within days. These cases were then confirmed to be caused by a novel variation of the severe acute respiratory syndrome related coronavirus 2. I know it's a mouthful, and the shorter version is SARS-CoV-2, or simply COVID-19. Will the world ever be the same after this pandemic, and how can we fight this invisible enemy?
Okay, so I'm just going to turn it down. I don't know if you can hear Andre too well there. Okay, that's actually my fault, though. The volume's not all that good on my speakers here, but this gives you an idea. Okay, Andre was a bit shy, and he didn't want to. He felt shy about showing his face in the presentation. And I completely understand that. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of getting used to, seeing yourself on film and so on. But in time, maybe you will become comfortable and it won't be too much of a problem. So this was his first presentation, and it's amazing. Instead of showing his face, he showed great visuals, okay? This was about COVID-19.
Older people and
great English.
Those with underlying medical problems like
excellent
cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, and cancer are more likely to develop a serious illness.
Okay, so Andre did a lot of preparation, okay? He wrote a script, okay? So, that's one way of helping him do his video presentation. He's got it written down. He practiced all the words, how every word was pronounced correctly, and he was able to read it and move through the entire presentation. Okay, so look at these transitions and everything. I'm going to show you another presentation here. Okay, so here's another one. This is Vicky.
A presentation, and the topic should have been related to coronavirus.
This is great. We were at. She was at home. Everybody was at home. She's doing her. I can see her shower here. It's great. And she's showing everything, like on the tablet.
As you can see on this little sketch I made, I obtained my bachelor and master's degrees, both in environmentally based
Okay, so she's talking about, her own, history or her own education with regards to the problem, the environmental geochemistry and things like that. And then watch here then. Okay, so let's not go to that slide. Let's go a little bit further. Okay.
Everywhere in the lawns, so when you're mowing your lawn, you can see them everywhere.
Okay, so she's got a very personal, really great
Recipe
one.
for daisies. I actually found really beautiful pictures on the internet.
So if you're wondering what she's actually speaking about, again, this is, a coronavirus topic, okay, but she's talking about how you can get vitamin C when you can't buy vitamin C tablets at the pharmacy during COVID-19. You couldn't buy, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of vitamins were sold out. I went to Dr. Max and they said, no, we have nothing. I said, okay, well, do you have Vrushkov? No, we don't have anything. A respirator, nothing. Okay, so this was a really interesting topic that she chose.
Friends and colleagues, I'm really happy to see you all and delighted organisms
Hang on then.
and the Slovak Academy of Sciences.
Okay, so in this one here, you have Miriam. She
As you
kind of
can
started
see
the
on
same
screen,
way.
My topic for today's presentation.
Okay.
Delighted
At the
to
beginning,
present
she introduces herself. She's talking about coral reefs. And then for the rest of the presentation, she doesn't show herself, okay? She just goes straight, kind of like what I do in my lectures like this, okay? So she's talking about coral reefs, their importance to the planet, protection, all kinds of interesting stuff, okay? And if I remember, at the very end of the presentation, she's back, she says goodbye, that great smile, of course. Okay, so these are some ways that you can do a video presentation. Okay, so even in the book, I've got a few things. Like if you go to a presentation and there is some power failure, okay, like some VPADOC, Elektrini, you're going to have to improvise, okay? Improviso. I don't know how to say that, but anyways, use some of the classic stuff as well. Like, a flip chart is also okay. All right. The flip chart is the paper chart. You can write everything on it, have everything prepared. You don't need any electricity. Right? Remember, if you have a computer problem or an electrical problem, this is plan B, okay? Always have a plan B, plan Bechko, okay? Plan B, all right? Because anything can happen. You don't want to come to your presentation and find out that the computer is old, it doesn't support the same, I have the PowerPoint here, okay? It doesn't even support that kind of PowerPoint, okay? So you might have to, you have to do something else, all right? Flip charts are cheap, they're economical. You don't need any special printers or anything like that. You can put color, anything like that, okay? And flip charts, they also allow for spontaneity, spontan, right? So any last minute changes, you can just add it very quickly. You can just, flip the paper and write something else. All right, the whiteboard, okay, or the blackboard or something like that. It's always effective. Okay, I use the whiteboard a lot, especially when I don't want to type anything or if I need to draw something, okay? So when I'm describing anything, it's helpful during my lesson and my lecture. But it's also extremely effective, when you need to provide further explanation of a point, okay, or the question and answer period, okay. So somebody is, if something is still unclear and somebody asks, if you can expand, if you can, provide more detail, about the problem, you can use the whiteboard right away, okay? It's right there. Go ahead and use it, and you can, safely give examples or drawings to, for a further explanation of the point. All right, so with PowerPoint, okay, let me just move up there. So we just saw the video of by David Phillips, okay, The Death by PowerPoint. All right, write a script. Why not? Have something in prepared. Okay. Remember, your presentation is a performance. Okay. So, every actor, they've also prepared from a script before their performance. So, you can do the same thing. Okay. Memorize your lines. Okay. Everything naspamet. But remember, it's your personality that, it's what brings the presentation to life, okay? You are the presentation, okay? All right, do everything one thing at a time, okay? All right, then, so, one message, okay? Right? Remember, just one new point is displayed, okay? Don't crowd your slides with too much. Charts can be put on the next slide. Okay, so, make things simple. Remember, no paragraphs, nobody wants any text. And of course, any of the design, any of the stuff that PowerPoint offers, like where you can highlight and contrast, use all that stuff, okay? It's there, it's free, play around with it. If it doesn't work, okay? If it doesn't work, remember, you have this wonderful button here, okay, or something that looks like that. I don't know if that's a refresh or not, but on the PowerPoint, it'll, go back. It'll change everything again, and or it'll go back before you made the mistake, and so you can continue and do it, do it clearly. Okay, so play with anything there. Okay, all right. Remember, the slides, whatever people see on the screen is just a part of the presentation. It's your visual aid, okay? Right, so always think about your mannerisms, okay? Your mannerisms are your behavior, okay? Your smile, your eye contact, okay? Your body movements, your stance, okay? How you stand, kiedy stoisz, okay? Things like that, eye contact, all right? And always summarize your key points, okay? So you need to go back time to time, okay, to your previous slides sometimes, and just remind the listener, okay, of things that you already spoke about and how they're connected to what you're speaking about at that moment, okay? And again, Prezi presentations are wonderful, okay? For the most part, they're free to students, okay? You can be a little more creative. You can add all kinds of stuff, but there are a lot of disadvantages. It's not printer friendly, okay? No audio. That's been changed, though. You can put some audio and so forth. Okay. All right. I'm just going to leave it at that. Next week, okay, we're going to talk about signposting, describing some results, graphs, okay, anything like that. It'll be the real body of your presentation. I'm going to send you some stuff on signposting next week, some really good language that will help you. All right. Well, I hope that was helpful. If you have any comments, please, I'm always up for feedback. Okay. I mean, send me an email and say, Professor Mike, maybe next time you can explain this or something like that. So, this is the future, really. Having to do a lecture online, whether it's like a YouTube format that we're doing in this class or whether it's live or anything like that. So I'm learning through the whole thing too, and I'm sure a lot of your professors are also learning. It's not easy to suddenly, I've been teaching for many years. I taught my first lesson of English in 1993. That's 27 years ago. You're like, oh, how is that possible? Like when you look like you're only 30 years old. No, I'm a little bit older than 30. So, but yeah, 27 years ago. And for 27 years, no, I don't want to say that. I taught for 8 years. I took a break for 10 years. And I've been teaching now for 9 years again. So this is my second time living in Slovakia. So I've had 17 years of being in a classroom. I know how to talk to people. I know when I need to tell a joke or I know the emotion of my students, okay? But doing something online, I can't see it. I'm sure a lot of you have this experience of doing a Zoom meeting with students either here at Prifug or some other institution. And when you have 20 students and their video is off and you can't see them, it's a very strange feeling. It seems almost as if you're talking to yourself, so it takes some time. You have to always tell yourself that, yeah, people are listening. Okay, they might be quiet. I may not be able to see them at all, but they're there. And it's if they're listening, and I really hope that they are, then I still have to present and instruct, the best way that I can. All right. Anyways, those are just some of my personal thoughts, though. But if you do choose to do the video format, I showed you 3 ways, or from 3 students that did it in the spring when we went into lockdown. They were also unprepared, but they did it. They either showed the tablet, they showed themselves at a minimum, or not at all, which is fine. You can record a Zoom presentation, okay? So you make your own personal meeting where you show, it's almost like a vlogger, okay? Where you show a PowerPoint slide and you can stop it, but you're that little, that little square in the corner, okay? And so people can still see you. All right, I'll leave it at that, okay? You guys have a great week, and thank you for your patience for everything. And by all means, if you have any feedback whatsoever, I'm always interested in hearing it, okay? And remember, every Friday, I still have office hours from 8 o'clock until 10 o'clock, and it's been great meeting many of you. I'm really happy that some of you have been dropping by to ask questions, download material, or just hang out a little bit. I don't mind that at all, okay? All right, everybody, take care. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.